Former Senator Bam Aquino is gearing up for a political comeback next year. His name was initially floated by Liberal Party spokesperson Laila de Lima as one of their possible bets for senator, but now, as we all know, he has gone and left LP to lead a young and new political party called Katipunan ng Nagkakaisang Pilipino, or KANP. That's a bit of a mouthful. But yeah, you dropped quite a bombshell there.
Okay. Thank you for having me. Una-una, salamat for inviting me.
Let's backtrack a little bit. I just wanted to get the timeline correct. February 22 was when former Senator de Lima announced you, Attorney Diokno, Chel Diokno, as well as former Senator Kiko Pangilinan, as three candidates that's going to be on the LP slate for senator next year.
Yeah, I
So
think,
my first question is, did you know that you were going to be announced like that?
no, and alam naman ni Senator Laila na I had left the party already. In fact, si Attorney Chel is already a member of KNP. No, so I left the Liberal Party as early as 2019. No, when during that election, pagkatapos ng election na yon, I said I'd be a private citizen for a while. And I already verbally told Senator Kiko at that time, was our party president, na maglalaylo na ako and I wouldn't be part of the party anymore. And in fact, sa mga latest events, hindi na ako naiimbita. No? So some people ask, oh, ba't wala si Senator Bam dyan? It's because I had left the party already as early as 2019. And then in 2021, when Vice President Leni was gearing up to run for the presidential race, marami sa mga young leaders nagbuo ng partido called KNP, no? Katipunan na Nagkakaisang Pilipino. Ginamit namin yung nagkakaisa even before nauso siya sa Uniteam, no? So, even
so you're
before.
first.
First. So, 2021 pa lang yon, nagbuo sila para si VP Leni at that time had an option to run under another party. In the end, she ran as an independent. And after the campaign, nag-usap-usap yung mga young leaders doon kung itutuloy pa ba yung partido o hindi. But it is actually the youngest political party in our country. It's composed of a number of young incumbents, mga board member, councilor, vice mayor, young, dynamic, tech-savvy, talagang malalim yung pagmamahal sa bayan.
Yeah. I noticed the Facebook page, no? Pag scroll mo, parang there's no big names, diba? Yung mga nakasanayan nating mga senators. It's all mga yun, like you said, council members.
They're on the ground
council.
kasi Sean eh.
Right,
These are
right.
people on the ground, direct sa tao yung tulong nila. And many of them eventually became the provincial heads of the Leni Robredo campaign.
Right,
So may mix of incumbents and volunteers, and that energy which we saw in 2022, parang nais naming ituloy, no, dito sa ating bansa. And itong nag-1 year na to the elections next year, hiniling na nila na formally maging chairman na ako ng partido. And I said yes.
But coming back to the timeline, when Senator de Lima announced you, had you made your decision at that point?
No. Hindi pa.
So you were
hindi
still
pa.
thinking?
Actually, I spoke to Senator Laila a week later, and I think it was more of, ito yung mga ninais niya or yung gusto niyang makitang
wish
tumakbo,
list.
parang wish list, no? And that was really still early. I think you had spoken to Senator Kiko also last
Yes.
month. Pero sa pag-uusap rin namin, nakita ko rin na 1 year before the midterm elections, palagay ko kailangan na talagang magsimula na. We need to start already. And sabi ko nga, coming with the announcement this week, na handa na tayong bumalik sa larangan ng politika.
But where do you identify now? I mean, for the longest time kasi, of course, you're an Aquino. So, nandun yung dilawan, pinklawan, hindi natin matatanggal yon. But for the longest time, very quiet yung side na yon. So, where do you identify now? Do you consider yourself as part of the opposition?
Well, ngayon kasi mukhang the Duterte side has taken on that role eh. 'Di ba? Medyo mas maanghang na yung mga sinasabi nila, and ako naman, many people, in fact, a number of people in politics really look at the two big groups na nag-aaway. And palagay namin, yung naiiwan yung talagang mahalaga sa taong bayan. Issues on prices, issues on wages, issues on education. Ito yung mga bagay na mahalaga, parang hindi nabibigyan ng pansin dahil sa away na nangyayari. So, in fact, nung nag-aaway na nga itong dalawang malaking grupo, nagka-espasyo bigla. And I think many of our countrymen, hinahanap rin nila na may magbibigay ng pansin sa kanilang mga concerns, no? So, right now, ang nakikita ko kasi is, let's take it issue by issue, no? Tingnan natin, ano ba yung mga issues na mahalaga sa tao, paano natin yan mabibigyan ng pansin, ng solusyon. So, for example, there was a news report earlier, no, in another interview, na marami sa mga kabataan natin, kahit makagraduate, wala naman trabaho. Di ba? And yung makagraduate, mahalaga sa akin yan because I passed the free college law. So we have a lot of students now who can get to college, who do have free tuition, pero pagka-graduate, kulang pa rin ng trabaho. So ito yung mga bagay na mahalaga sa mga tao, na sana yung mga graduates natin, may trabaho sila. And there are ways to actually get that done. No? May mga solusyon dyan na pwede mong mabigay yung magandang trabaho sa mga kabataan natin. Hindi yan bibigyan ng pansin. Talk about prices. If you look at all of the surveys, ang number one, lagi, presyo ng bilihin. And yet, hindi malinaw. Ano ba talaga yung plano para ibaba yung presyo ng bilihin? How can we get this lower? Marami sa mga kababayan natin, naghihigpit na ng sinturon, hindi na makahinga. Kasi talagang hindi na kasya talaga yung kinikita nila. Ito yung mga kailangan natin talagang i-focus, Masek, no? And I think if more people get to the Senate na nakafocus sa mga problema ng tao, we'll be able to get more of these reforms passed.
But of course, para ma-implement natin yung mga policies with regards to those issues, importante na manalo muna sa eleksyon.
Of course.
And kapag
of course.
malapit na yung eleksyon, very important din yung alliances. So, sino yung inaay natin na alay?
Right now, wala pa namang pag-uusap about alliances, no? But and this was asked of me. Actually, it's always asked of
It's
me
always,
kasi
yes. And it's always in all reports
in all
about your
reports.
bombshell, especially after yesterday when you made the announcement. A lot of political analysts have spoken up and they're seeing so-and-so alliance, so-and-so alliance.
You know, ano ba
where is KNP, as early as now, meron na bang kind of like rough direction
Well,
where you're going?
Unang-una sa mga local alliances kasi, buo pa rin yan, no? I was a senator for 6 years and you create a lot of relationships with local government leaders. Hindi naman yan nawawala. And makikita mo naman sa ating bansa, yung political party, sometimes recommendation, hindi siya mandatory, di ba? So, a lot of these alliances are still there, pero pagdating sa national, wala pa naman pag-uusap. And I've said this already, alliance para saan? Di ba? Alliance para saan? Kung para lang sa eleksyon, within a year and a half, nag-aaway na kayo. Pero kung alliance yan para sa
But we're not
mahalagang
gonna name
bagay,
names, right?
well, clearly, we know who we're talking about. Pero kung alliance yan para sa mga bagay na mahalaga sa tao, then maybe we can set aside differences for that. So for example, yung report nyo sa West Philippine Sea, di ba? May kulay ba yon? Yung mga mangingisda na pumunta doon sa Scarborough, wala silang kulay. They don't represent Marcos, Duterte, Aquino, Liberal Party, PFP, wala. They represent our country. I mean, yan yung tapang. I mean, I was watching it here. Medyo na-emotional ako, ah. You look at all of those small boats, tapos yung malalaking barko ng China, you get emotional. Yan yung tapang na hinahanap ng taong bayan ngayon pagdating sa China. And when they go out there, ang dala nila, Philippine flag. Wala silang dalang kulay o dalang political party. So ang point ko lang dito, may mga issue na kailangan tayo magtulungan. May mga bagay na talagang magdedebate tayo to death. Ganun lang talagang demokrasya. There are things that we will not agree on. But yung hinahanap ng tao ngayon, ano ba yung mga bagay-bagay na pwede nyong pag-usapan, pagtulungan para naman sa amin? And I've shown na may capacity ako for this. I passed the free college law as a member of the minority. No, marami nagsabi, hindi mo magagawa yan kasi hindi ka naman part ng administrasyon. But in the end, President Duterte, kahit ayaw ng mga cabinet members niya, hindi niya binito yung batas, pinirmahan niya, fully funded, fully implemented, and now, that law, milyon-milyon na ang nakinabang sa batas na yan. So, there are spaces, I think, in our governance kung saan kailangan talaga tayo magtulungan para sa taong bayan.
Balik muna tayo doon, sinasabi ni Mase, diba? Bago tayo pumunta doon sa mga polisiya, doon muna tayo sa eleksyon. Kailangan natin manalo. Now, you have managed a big national campaign already. You've been senator. You've been through this before. What are your major learnings from those attempts in the past, and those campaigns in the past? What are you looking to change? What big change can we expect in the way that KNP will launch? And I'm guessing the youth is your target market. So how will it be different?
For instance, Attorney Jokno was telling us that he's on TikTok more now.
He is.
He's become a TikTok influencer.
Yes.
So what would you do differently?
Unang-una, you have to start early. No, I think yung biggest learning natin nung 2022 was that masyadong late yung October ka magsisimula. No? So magsisimula tayo ng mas maaga, magsisimula tayo sa Mayo. At nakita rin natin nung nakaraang kampanya, marami ring nagising eh. 'Di ba? Walang nag-i-expect that people would come out in the numbers that they came out for Leni Robredo's campaign in 2022. That was a surprise. Kahit kami, surprised kami na ganun karaming tao yung lumabas. Nobody expected that. And yet, nung nung nanindigan siya, nung tumayo siya, marami rin tumayo na kasama niya. So may mga kababayan tayong nagising na, and I hope that they will still be there to support our candidacy and the people that we'll be running with. And I hope na this time we'll start early at hindi tayo mahuhuli sa mga bagay-bagay gaya noong 2022.
Baka ma-criticize din kayo. Di ba yun
Normal
yung
yun,
unang, di ba? Yun yung mga
Early campaigning,
worry,
premature campaigning, yun yung mga tawag nila.
At saka nahahanapan ng butas.
Wala
Pag
ka-
I mean,
maaga.
I guess whatever you do, though, you'll get criticized
But
for,
ito,
right?
Maseka,
If you start too late,
Yeah.
ganun din.
Yung criticism, part of the game yan. No, it's part of the game. I mean, wala namang perfect sa mundong to, and some people will like you and some people won't like you. Ganun lang talaga. Hindi ka pwedeng balat sibuyas dyan. Pero yung ma-investigate ka or ano sabi natin, mahahanapan ka ng butas. Ako kasi, I'm proud to say, wala akong perang ninakaw sa bayan. And I'm looking at all of you in the eye. Wala akong perang ninakaw sa bayan natin. So kahit halongkatin nila yan, I can say it with a straight face. Kahit anong investigate pa nila yan, wala silang mahahanap sa akin. And I think ang makikita nila, mga panukala na nakatulong sa taong bayan. So I'm not afraid of that.
I think February yun, lumabas yung picture mo with Senator Ping Lacson and with former Senator Tito Soto
Yes.
and Mayor
Benji.
Magalong. So, well, based on news articles sa pinag-usapan nyo about constitutional amendments. But aside from that, napag-usapan nyo rin ba yung politics? Should we expect you
I think-
with these three kasama sa iisang slate?
So both Tito Sen and Senator Ping, I'm very close to them, especially nung nasa Senate ako. They're two of our more senior senators. And kahit magkakaibang partido, kahit naglaban kami noong 2022, I always show my respect to them. I think Tito Sen is going to run. No, I'm not sure about Tito Ping, Senator Ping. But they're two people, I think, who would do well in the Senate.
You're not talking to them yet.
Nagkikita-kita kasi kami sa mga festival. I'll be honest with you, may mga ibang piyesta, imbitado kami, katabi ko si Senator Lapid, katabi ko si Senator Soto. So nagchichismisan rin naman kami talaga. But no talks about forming groups or alliances. It's really early pa at this point. I mean, kaka-announce pa lang natin. I think mag-evolve pa to.
At
I'm
which
hoping,
point, no, can we start looking out bilang nasa media kami? Ito yung mga binabantayan namin. Around what month should we start really looking out for when these coalitions and alliances form?
yung totoo, October.
October.
Yung totoo, October. Because the week of the filing is really when things are decided. But ang decision to come out early, I think, is not for the media or for the politicians. It's really for the people. Kasi after the campaign, so syempre pagkatapos ng campaign ng 2022, malungkot tayo. No, hindi nanalo yung kandidato ko. But by November, yung mga volunteer organizations, nag-i-invite na sila. Nag-organize na sila ulit. And they would invite me and say, "Oh, Senator Bam, punta ka naman dito, kwentuhan lang tayo." And maybe I went around 20 provinces. And in each of those provinces, yung sinasabi ng mga volunteers, what's next? Game pa rin kami. You know, laban pa tayo. Gawin natin
Actually,
to.
I'm actually aware of that kasi lumalabas yan di ba? Na yung mga, yun nga, daming mga naging project after the fact, like yung mga museum ni former Vice President Robredo, di ba? Yan yung mga parang biglang nawalan ng gagawin yung mga volunteers and they were raring to go and then they tried to find other activities that they could do.
Not just the museum,
Yeah,
but maraming
other
maraming
outreach
nag-focus sa education, sa Brigada Eskwela, helping their local schools. Maraming nagbuo ng NGOs, gumagawa ng feeding programs. So that energy from the last campaign, nandun pa rin yun di ba? And yung tanong nga nila, tapos na ba yung laban natin o may laban pa ba tayo? Are we still going to go for it in a national position? And part of my decision to come out this early is also para masabi ko, yes, may laban pa tayo, lalaban pa tayo, at kailangan tayong maganda. And coming from the announcement the other day, makikita mo rin on social media and personally, marami ring natutuwa na ganito kaaga, pwede na magsimula yung mga tao na mag-organisa.
But, and I'm sorry to be the one to point this out, you're not figuring in the surveys at the moment. So if I could just pull up the latest Pulse Asia survey, I think this is from March. You were ranked somewhere in the, was that 18 to 28 bracket?
Yes.
A little too small for me to see from afar, but 18-28, so wala sa magic 12.
Yeah.
you're well aware of what the surveys are saying, I guess.
Of course, of
What is the
course.
strategy to
Well, Regina,
claw your way up?
in 2021, nung nag-announce si VP Lenny, nagsimula siya at 5%. And again, walang nagtiwala na mangyayari yung kampanya the way it turned out. Na mapupuno yung Makati, mapupuno yung Pasig, mapupuno yung Pampanga, all over the Philippines. At lumabas talaga yung mga tao. Nag-volunteer yung mga tao. No? So nakikita ko talaga na marami sa mga kababayan natin, kung walang tataya, hindi sila tatayo.
Pero
What I just want to say is, yes, ganyan yung numero ngayon, pero malay mo, we might pull a surprise just like 2022. And ako, hindi malay mo, I have a firm belief na yan ang mangyayari. I really believe that. Kasi nakita ko na eh. You know, it's not, nung 2022 kasi, talagang surprise yun eh. Ito, alam kong nandyan yung mga tao, hinihintay lang natin na lumabas sila ulit.
may advantage ba? Kasi midterm to, hindi siya presidential. Some would say may pros and cons, yada
Yes,
yada,
of
right?
course, of course.
Sa nakikita mo, like how will it affect, no, yung, kumbaga, yung interest ng tao. Since obviously naman, presidential election is really bigger, mas
Of course.
magara,
Of
mas
course.
maraming sinasaboy na pera, and etc. Compared to a midterm election. So how will you use that fact to your advantage?
The biggest difference between a presidential and a senatorial is sa presidential, you're choosing one person. Sa senatorial, you're choosing 12 people. So, may espasyo kayo for groups na maybe hindi kayo yung majority. You may not be more than 50%, but you're a significant number. Kung organized kayo, kaya nyo ilagay yung mga taong gusto nyo makita. And that's the big difference. In the Senate, yung tradition ng Senado, makikita natin na even if they're administration candidates, meron pa rin mga kandidato na galing sa iba't ibang mga partido. So it's a different math, and I think that's probably the biggest advantage for 2025
You reckon
compared to 2022.
mathematically the odds are in your favor, you're thinking?
Yes, definitely.
Really quickly,
Listen, no. We have to talk about your platform before we let you go. Based on your interviews in other outlets, it sounds like you're making inflation, food prices your main priority, your main platform.
It is the main thing,
Okay.
Regina.
Because I guess that's what the surveys are saying. That's what's
Yeah.
most important to Filipinos.
Exactly,
But what are
exactly.
you specifically going to do to address it?
Alam mo, yung pagbaba ng presyo ng bilihin, Regina, hindi yan madaling gawin.
Yes.
Complicated siya, masalimuot siya, pero kaya yang gawin kung handa ka magtrabaho at handa kang bumangga sa kailangan banggain. Our food prices are high, also because of our ports na may corruption na nangyayari dyan. Our food prices are high because of the cartels, because of the smugglers, because of the sindikato sa loob at labas ng gobyerno. You know, kailangan mong banggain yan. And you can lower our food price right away. Yung sahod natin, babanggain mo dyan, yung malalaking kumpanya who don't want to raise the wages of our workers. So, kailangan mong banggain yan. You have to be willing to really show strength upang mapasa mo itong mga reformang to. And I think I've shown na may kakayanan tayo dyan. No,
are you in favor of a legislated wage hike?
It's passed in the Senate, yes.
Are you in favor
Yes,
of it?
it's passed in the Senate, hinihintay ang Kongreso, hinihintay ang pirma ng Presidente.
It's a populist policy, though, and it will have repercussions in the broader economy. That's always what happens, right?
Honestly, Regina, that's BS.
But
I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. Yan naman lagi yung sasabihin. Pag itaas mo yung sahod ng mga gawa, babagsak yung ekonomiya. Hindi naman yun nangyayari talaga. Ang mangyayari dyan, tataas mo yung sahod ng mga gawa, maybe some companies will earn less. That's the truth. Yan yung katotohanan. Yung sasabihin na babagsak yung ekonomiya, never naman nangyari yan. At yung itataas mo naman, di naman sobrang laki. In fact, kung i-compute mo talaga yan, yung kinikita ng mga manggagawa natin, compared sa pangangailangan nila, hindi talaga nagmamatch. Way back when, ginawa yung minimum wage, that matched yung pangangailangan ng mga tao. But through the years, tumaas yung presyo ng bilihin, hindi naman tumaas yung kinikita ng manggagawa, di ba? Ano nangyari? Ang layo na. So, it's government's job to match that, to fill in that gap. So, paano i-fill in yung gap na yan? Una, kailangan mo itaas yung sweldo. And yes, some people will earn less. Mas malit ang kikitain ng ibang mga tao. Pero kailangan natin gawin yan para sa milyong-milyong Pilipino. Pangalawa, ibababa mo yung presyo ng bilihin. Bakit mataas ang presyo ng bilihin natin? Kasi ilang grupo rin lang yung kumikita dyan. Yung mga kartel, yung mga sindikato. One group told me, easily 10% ng food price natin mataas because of corruption and inefficiency. So makikita natin, there are ways na pwedeng baguhin yan. pero hindi siya makagawa ng basta-basta lang.
But-
Mabigat siyang problema,
right.
kailangan seryoso ka, kailangan handa ka bumangga, at kailangan handa ka magtrabaho para makamit yan.
I don't think it's just the part na kailangan bumangga because then you also what's also true about the economy here is that it's 99% driven by the MSMEs, the
Exactly.
micro entrepreneurs, right? So 100 peso increase a day may not sound like a lot in theory, pero it's big for the smaller entrepreneurs.
But our MSMEs, Regina, because of the Go Negosyo Act, which was one of my laws, are exempted from the minimum wage law. So kung registered MSME ka, hindi ka naman kasama sa minimum wage law. 'Di ba? Kung sari-sari store ka, paano ka magbabayad ng minimum wage? Hindi siya realistic for our MSMEs or maybe for the
So
micro
there's a
and
way
small.
to skip the whole MSME segment.
It's already a
and
law.
just
Batas na siya.
apply it to the big corporates.
It's already a law. Batas na yan. Go Negosyo Act, that's my first law actually. Merong exemption yan para sa micro small enterprises. So, hindi dapat nag-aalala yung mga maliliit. Hindi naman sila covered dyan. Hindi naman realistic na expect mo yung mga nagbebenta ng fishball na mag-minimum wage. Hindi
Correct.
naman yun realistic.
Yes.
But, if you look at our top companies, if you look at our big companies, siguro naman kaya nilang
Yeah.
magbahagi ng kanilang yaman dun sa ating mga manggagawa. And we're not even talking about all of the workers. We're just talking about yung workers na pinakamaliliit ang kinikita. So, for me, and ako babalik ako dito sa kung bakit ito yung paniniwala ko. No? We call ourselves a Christian country. We call ourselves a just country. But ano yung totoo? Hindi naman talaga tayo makatarungan sa bansa natin. And para ma-match mo yung kinikita ng mga Pilipino at yung kanilang pangailangan, yun yung isang paraan para mas magkaroon tayo ng hustisya at masabing, really, we're a Christian country.
And then with the cartel problem, I mean, everyone knows that. It's an age-old problem. The
Yes.
smuggling problem, the cartel problem. All the lawmakers, past and present, have been trying to stamp it out.
Ganito na lang.
So
Why
I don't-
haven't they been able to?
Yeah,
What are you
exactly.
seeing that we
Yeah.
aren't? We were never.
We've
in
asked this to Senator Cynthia
Everyone.
Villar.
Yeah.
We've asked this to former DA secretaries. We've asked this of everyone.
Okay. So, yung
Even,
mga kailangan...
even former Senator Pangilinan.
Yung mga kailangan banggain dito, Regina, mabibigat talaga. There are ways to do it. So for example, nung pinasa ko yung free college law, sino yung pinakamay ayaw niyan? Private schools. Ayaw nila. Kinabahan sila. Pag ginawa mong libre yung mga SUC, mauubusan kami ng estudyante. Naubusan ba sila ng estudyante? Hindi. No? Tuloy-tuloy pa rin sila. No? They were able to continue. Ano yung naging solusyon dyan? Magbigay tayo ng scholarships pati rin sa mga private schools para both private and public schools may libreng kolehiyo sa kanila. So there are ways to go about it. But yung mga babanggain, you have to push through. Kailangan ka magpakita ng political will dito. And honestly, kahit anong panukala yan, I'm hoping, gaya ng libreng kolehiyo, pwede magkaisa dito sa issue na to. We can come together for issues like this. Yung frustrating lang kasi, Regina, itong mga problemang ito matagal na
Exactly.
Diba? So it's time that we really stop it. Itigil na natin. Hindi aangat yung bayan natin kung hindi natin i-resolve yung mga isyong to. And I go back to free college because nung pinapasa namin yan, marami nagsasabi, hindi mo mapapasa yan. Imposible maging libre ang kolehiyo sa Pilipinas. Nung bata tayo, hindi ba natin ma-imagine yan, honestly. But you can get a reform done kung kaya mo magtrabaho, kaya mong dalhin yung mga stakeholders together, at willing kang itulak yung kailangan ng tao. Kung willing kang gawin yun, mapapasa mo yung reforma. And I feel that that kind of mentality, kailangan natin gawin rin para sa presyo ng bilihin, sa sahod ng mga manggagawa natin, at yung benepisyo na binibigay ng gobyerno.
So reading between the lines, you don't want to be part of the opposition if you do get in. It'll be too hard otherwise.
Whether opposition ka o hindi, I'd like to think na may mga bagay na pwede kayo magtulungan.
Also, are you willing to have an alliance with Partido Federal and Lakas CMD?
Yeah.
Honestly, right now, kasi wala pa namang pag-uusap na yan.
Okay.
no?
But in terms of openness,
Again, I'll go back to the question, no? Alliance para saan?
Okay.
okay,
Diba?
we have to
Alliance
leave
para
it
saan?
there
Fair enough.
because our producers are
Overtime
panicking.
na. Winarning ko kayo. Sabi ko, madaldal ako. Winarning ko kayo.
Thank you so much for your time tonight, former Senator and returning senatorial candidate Bam Aquino.